We're back here on Ceraulo Sports Talk, a special live interview from Radio Row in Tampa ahead of the big game, Super Bowl 55. Joining me now, it's a man who's had to endure more than anyone would ever care to, a 9/11 survivor, a survivor of the more recent Mandalay Bay shooting out in Las Vegas. It's Brooklyn's own Mike Dempsey. Mike, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks, pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. And there's so much to get to, Mike. I want to touch on your football career, of course. Let's start more recently. The night in Mandalay Bay, it was reported that you were hanging out with some buddies by the pool, and then everything went down. What was the scene like? Take us through that night.
Well, I was out here in Vegas doing a TV show that weekend, Tanked, Animal Planet. My friend Brett Raymer, Brooklyn guy. Brett lives out in Vegas, and he was filming an engagement episode on that weekend, and happened to be out there at Mandalay Bay. And the next day, I had Scott Baio's golf outing in Los Angeles to get to. So I was just wanting to get from Vegas to LA without any incident. And it was just my usual Mandalay Bay hangout. And then was outside and wrapping up. And then we heard the shots fired. I was in lockdown the whole night. And not knowing how bad everything was until, with social media, see, when 9/11 happened, I didn't have Facebook or there was no Twitter, there was no texting, and the messages were just outrageous about there were shooters all over all the casinos, and I was like, and all I could think about was I got to get to Chachi's golf outing the next day. Like, what am I going on? I had no idea where the shooter was. We didn't have any idea until the next morning, and it was a chaotic scene to be there at the same time as all that happened, given what I went through. So many years earlier with 9/11, it was like, how can this happen in somebody's lifetime twice? But I guess I was prepared. I'd been through such a horrific event in New York City, on 2001. So I kind of just helped take my 9/11 charity group, which we do to help support survivors, family members, focus on 9/11 education. But I wanted to focus more on peer support because, now you have all these communities. Las Vegas, we had Boston Marathon bombing in 2013. Oklahoma City was before us. They helped us in 9/11. And bring these folks together. A couple years ago, went to Parkland with Fred Gutenberg, who lost his daughter Jamie, and we did a whole kind of roundtable for their shooting survivors and families, and just to talk about what we went through and share some experiences, perspectives. We're not psychologists, but we're just there to support them. And I think that peer support is such a needed thing in times like this, even during this pandemic. Everybody just has to pick up and lift each other up during times like this where we don't have the physical communication. So I think it's so crucial just to keep out there and try to support our each other.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I love that you're bringing light to it. We're just a couple days removed from Bell Let's Talk Day, which of course is a huge mental health initiative, and during these times with COVID, you've got record numbers of people suffering from anxiety and depression. When seemingly more people are facing those two things now than ever, how did you cope with your own battle with anxiety after being a part of those two traumatic events?
Oh, it's PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So, I was just talking last night to David Wells, former Yankee baseball pitcher, friend of mine, and he does an organization called Perfect 33 Foundation, helping military veterans through the NFL Alumni Association, which I'm a proud member of. We have a lot of, through Gridiron Greats, Coach Ditka's charity, we focus not just on the NFL guys who've had traumatic head injuries, we also focus on veterans who have experienced stress and PTSD, such an underlooked thing out there, and how to get you back into society and try to sort of have your good days, you have your bad days. I certainly have had my bad days as well as I have my good days, but it's all about calling up a brother and saying, look, I'm having a bad day. And that's what we do. It's like a support network and the more we can grow it, the better it is for all of us.
Well, Mike, it's incredible that you're so open with your stories. And on a brighter note, you do a ton of charity work. You've got a great event coming up in June. You're getting in the ring with Jerry Cooney, a 3-round exhibition. What's the story behind this incredible charity event? How did it come about?
Jerry Cooney from Huntington, Long Island. So you got to know Jerry's history. Lives in New Jersey these days. I've been friendly with him for 15 plus years. I grew up idolizing Gentleman Jerry when he got in the ring with Larry Holmes, another good friend of mine, and we were doing this. He does this fight night every year to support underprivileged kids in New Jersey. YCS, it's YCS.org. The name of the charity, Youth Consultation Services, helping underprivileged youth and helping kids at risk. And Jerry's a mentor, and the fight night was just amateur fights, and I came up with the idea. We were at an event with Mark Wahlberg and Jimmy Wahlberg about a year and a half ago. We said, why not get Dempsey, Jack Dempsey, although I'm not really related to him. I think there's some kind of Irish relation somewhere. There always is with Irish families. But idea was, hey, let's promote a Dempsey versus Cooney. His last fight was with George Foreman. He got knocked out in the second round, although George did tell me that Jerry gave him the hardest punch of his whole career, which is impressive.
Wow.
But I said, maybe for Jerry it's redemption to finish his career at 65 years old, of course, with the win over a guy named Dempsey. But for me, it's a chance for redemption, too, to get in a ring with an idol. And we're going to have fun. We have Johnny Damon in my corner.
Amazing.
Cool guys that are coming out. Doc Gooden, New York legend. And,
huge Mets fan you're talking to right here, so that's
I'm gonna
incredible.
Be with Doc this week, and I'm at Johnny Damon's event tomorrow. Irish Mickey Ward has been training me, and if you follow the trilogy with Ward and Gaddy, that's resiliency. You look at that fight, you won't ever see a boxing match or a number of matches like that again, and that's the inspiring thing. When I started watching that Ward, Arturo Gaddy trilogy, that inspired me. I said, he can go through all those rounds, and they try to kill each other, became best friends after the fight. Me and Jerry can do something for 3 rounds. We're not going to try to, hopefully, I hope Jerry's not out to kill me. I'm certainly just trying to survive, but make it a fun night. Iran Barkley, just we have a lot of Sopranos coming out to the event, of course, Davini Pastoris and some of the other guys, Dan Grimaldi. Just make it fun and inspire and raise a lot of money, and that's what it's all about, is helping, especially now during, like you said, mental health is these kids in YCS at the charity, they're going through a lot right now. They haven't got the fundraising support given this was a tough year in 2020, so we want to do something big to inspire them, and hopefully I walk away. It'll be a one-time boxing career. I hope I can finish it 1-0 and hang up the gloves. But look, years ago I was privileged to be in a Yankees old-timer day. We did for Brian Doyle, a former Yankee World Series legend. He has Parkinson's. And I've done a lot of work with the Yankees over the years. They let me play in an old-timers day event, and it was a game in Scranton. It was a full house. I got up there against Jeff Nelson, 4-time World Series champion. And I got a hit. It was Father's Day 2015. I got a hit with my kids watching me. And I always tease Jeff. I played a video every time, have it on my phone, and I tease him all the time. But I'm 1 for 1 in my major league career. So does that make me Hall of Famer? I don't know. So if I survive Cooney, I don't know. I think I should be in the boxing Hall of Fame and the baseball Hall of Fame. So.
If you compare going 1-0 in the ring with 1 for 1 on the diamond, I'd say you got a good chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your prep been like? Because, I actually just took up boxing over last summer. It was something that, during these times of COVID really just helped keep my head on straight when the world around was crumbling. And I love it. It's quickly become one of my favorite sports. What's your prep been like for this fight?
So many gyms out there, so many different gimmicks. I've seen so many different forms of boxing. Mark Wahlberg and his brother, they got me onto a thing called F45. F45 training, Mark Wahlberg promotes it. That got me to stamina, lost 35 pounds.
Wow.
Really quickly. I've sustained it. I've kept it off. And then obviously the boxing gyms out there, there's Tap Out Fitness, 9 rounds. You got to find what works for you. I think each boxing gym has something different, depending on what you're looking to do. And but I found for me, training up with Mickey Ward, I went up to Massachusetts and went through boot camp with him. He really pushed me through to get the breathing. Breathing is what it's all about. You got to breathe in a ring. And how do you do that with a mouthpiece in there? And so it wasn't just stamina. One thing I learned when I came out of college and my NFL dreams died in Tampa Bay in 1995. I tried boxing, and I wasn't very good at it because football guys were big, muscular. But you try to do boxing endurance, not easy. And that's why I was a failure in the boxing ring back many, many years ago and trying to redeem myself in June. But, I think definitely boxing, the endurance, and especially as you get older. You're a young guy. I'm going to be 50 years old in August, so you got to find what works for you. But you got to do a combination. Diamond Dallas Page is a good friend of mine too, does yoga.
Great guy. Had him on the show a couple of years ago. He's awesome.
That's my dude. So he got me on DDP yoga, and I need that. I need the yoga stuff really because as we get older, we get a lot of the I've had, you can see from my surgeries, my wrist, my ACLs, three knee surgeries, my shoulder. You need to just stay limber, and I feel like the recovery when I do the yoga, it's yoga for guys, and it really helps me recover. So you got to do a combination. You do one thing, you're limiting yourself. Try to do more and keep pushing yourself, and that's what I've been using.
Yeah, absolutely. It's phenomenal advice. Going back a little bit too, you mentioned getting that hit on Father's Day at the Old Timer event in front of your kids. You host a podcast called the Dads and Daughters Show with your daughter Kelly.
Yep.
As someone who has an older brother who's severely autistic, I looked up a couple episodes.
Yeah.
Love the show, love the concept. What brought about that show with your daughter?
My daughter Kelly is turning 18. Well, she turned 18, and I want to give her a platform. She wants to talk about kindness, acceptance, humility, and love. That's her kind of goals, and we had this great network in Long Island called the Chapters Rap with Steve Vaccaro. He does host a show out of Long Island, the whole network of shows. I wanted my show to be something different about really using the special needs platform to raise awareness around kids that have abilities beyond disabilities. And Kelly has a lot of talents, and we had Nick Swisher on our last show, and we had Johnny Damon's a frequent guest on the show as well. We have a lot of that, and they support causes that help kids like Kelly, and I wanted to have that, give them a lot of props for what they do with their foundations and what Jerry Cooney's doing to help the kids in New Jersey, and have that kind of paint it forward. And Kelly doesn't want to just help herself, and I want to empower her, give her confidence, but I want her to help other kids. And she likes being a helper. Being a helper in life is the greatest thing you can never do. And Kelly has learned at a very young age to help her she supports a kid with Down syndrome, Gabby. They have a coffee shop they're fundraising for, and Kelly goes down. She's down there right now, helping do labels on coffee ingredients, so that when this kid goes with her coffee shop, it's ready to be operational. And I think it's a phenomenal thing to teach just life skills. One thing when you go to school, it's about getting academics, and you go to school. Life skills is very challenging for any kid, and especially with special needs populations. So giving her the life skills, I think through the show, she's learning a lot and paying it forward, and I feel that's the best education I can give her as a dad.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I certainly wish her the best. She sounds like an incredible kid. Mike, back to this fight before we wrap things up. How can the public get involved? Because it's a great cause for a great charity. How can people get involved? Will it be open doors? Obviously, with COVID, things are up in the air. What's the plan?
Yeah, the plan is it's at the W Hotel in Hoboken, and right now I think we're good to go. We hope on June 5th. We've been rescheduled a few times for the pandemic, and that's actually got me in better shape, so Jerry better be worried about it. But YCS.org is the website that you can look up and buy tickets, support it, whether you can be there in person. We'll hopefully have a live stream as well. It's going to be a fun night of boxing and entertainment. We want to entertain, and having some of these guys, I don't know what Johnny Damon can do in my corner except for just be a stunt double for me, maybe. Or Tracy Morgan, comedian, is going to be there.
Amazing.
He comes every year, Tracy. I don't know what he's going to do, but I think he's in Jerry's corner, actually. So I don't know. I got to not look at him, otherwise I'll laugh with my mouthpiece in there. But the idea is to have fun and raise money and do something really special. I think now it's more needed to get out there and do something. I mean, we came up with the whole idea of Jerry doing this, and then you see Mike Tyson with Roy Jones. But I'll tell you what, we came up with this concept a couple of years ago, and I think it's unique. I don't think Jerry's going to be out there on the senior circuit trading blows with some of the guys early in his career. But if I'm his last opponent, I'm privileged and honored to be that, because he's been such a good friend to me over the last 15, 20 years.
That'd be incredible. Mike, by the way, if you need an earlier card for the night, I'm more than happy to throw my name in there. But thanks so much for the time. This has been a blast.
Yeah.
We'll be right back here on Ceraulo Sports Talk.